Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I want to share with you slices of life of women in the Asian tropics and what UN Women is doing and the Singapore National Committee for UN Women to improve the lives and livelihoods of women and girls. Women are half of humanity. And in the words of Hillary Clinton, the former US Secretary of State, the voices of women can no longer be denied. Human rights are women's rights, and women's rights are human rights. But if you look at statistics of income, ownership, and education, women are not well represented there. Like 2/3 of the world's working hours are done by women, and they earn 10% of the income. They own 1% of the world's property. And when crises hit, parents are much more likely to take girls out of school. So 2/3 of the kids who don't get a primary education are girls. Is this fair? No. And beyond being unfair, it's also not a smart human resources decision once you ignore half of the world's talent pool. And the world is facing many challenges, ranging from economic to political to environmental. And I would like to argue that women's economic empowerment is going to make the key difference to the improved development of nations all over the world, though perhaps particularly in the tropics. I would be as radical as to say that our future is at stake. How can peace and prosperity happen if half the world's population is largely ignored? Also, research supports that empowering women economically is a great microeconomic and macroeconomic idea. For starters, UN Women believes that limits to Asian women's workforce participation cost the economy $89 billion a year. Women in the tropics face some particular systemic challenges. Among them, poverty, discrimination, violence, extreme weather, and tropical disease. I'll talk more about them and what UN Women does to help, but first I want to share with you a personal story of a woman I know and a woman who personifies many of those challenges. She grew up outside, in a squatters area, outside a major airport in Asia. When she was little, she helped her family. She supported her family by selling pomelo salad around the slum. She never had enough to eat until one of her older siblings went abroad to work. She started to work in a factory, but eventually she had to leave her country too and work abroad to pay off medical bills and also to support her kids who she had left behind home with her mother. The father of the children, her husband, found work as well, a couple of hours away at a fish farm in a fish pond. But his salary was not coming on time always because a tropical disaster, typhoons were common. Anything like that could wipe out the fish gains overnight. And she was lucky, her salary came on time, it was stable, but still, she wanted to go home with savings to be with her family. So her path was set all the way to going home, but that road was rocky. Her father got stabbed in the slums by a neighborhood drug addict. Her daughter, her top student daughter, her pride, caught dengue in the slums, but recovered after a hospital stay. Eventually, some years on, very careful budgeting, she managed to make it home again. And I just hope that the next economic shock that happens so often will not send her back abroad again to make money. And her story is not unusual. Many young women in the Asian tropics leave their families, their communities, their countries behind to go work abroad. This has happened since the beginning of time. It's the scale that's unprecedented. So people are not talking about the feminization of migration for work. And remittances that are sent home make a huge difference to national economies. They pay bills, they finance children's education, they go to investment, but at the same time, working conditions abroad can be unsafe and exploitative, and especially if you migrate through informal channels, it can be quite risky, and you can even get trafficked in the process. So, UN Women works in the area outside Singapore to facilitate safe migration practices and work on livelihood projects so that young women in desperate financial needs don't need to leave home to make a living and don't risk getting exploited or trafficked in the process. But UN Women has found that even women in particularly good positions in boardrooms of corporations or in political parties, they can only go so far. They can only decide so much. Their voice is only so heard. And UN Women is helping them to break through the glass ceilings, both at local levels and then hoping to grow to national and international. So UN Women has women's empowerment principles, which they're trying to get corporations to adopt to empower women in the workplace. And they work with national planning and budgeting to support governments as well. UN Women also works extensively to end violence against women and to spread the impact, and to stop the spread and the impact of HIV and AIDS. Because gender violence, it not only violates human rights, but it really also hampers productivity and economic growth for economies enormously. In the tropics, extreme weather can also, turn things around overnight, and crops are dependent on monsoon rains, etc. So for instance, in Aceh, Indonesia, after decades of civil war, that was the 2004 tsunami, and everything was devastated, in shambles. But there was also a unique opportunity for rebuilding and involving women in that process too, where UN Women was quite active. Also, environmental degradation affects women disproportionately, because as the household managers, they have difficulty finding food and fuel and everything else they need, and clean water. And without clean water, diseases, tropical diseases and others spread more easily. So UN Women actually think that women's empowerment is integral to being able to deal with climate change and make the best of the future. I should finally say on this slide too that UN Women, whatever it does, is trying to weave the CEDAW principles, you could say an International Women's Bill of Rights, for everything that they do. And I'm not sure. Let me see. Yeah. All right. So the Millennium Development Goals are 8 goals that all UN member states agreed on after the Millennium Summit in year 2000, and to be achieved by 2015. 2015 is around the corner. It looks like it's not exactly happening by 2015. So now people are talking about the post-2015 agenda as well. You could see that all principles cover aspects of women's lives. And really the World Bank and others is saying that achieving MDG number 3, the women's empowerment, is critical to have any chance to achieve the other principles as well. I want to talk for a minute about our migration campaigns here in Singapore. Human trafficking can be found in any corner of the world, but perhaps nowhere more so than in Asia Pacific. Singapore is not excluded from this. The city-state being an economic hub with lots of people flows and international travel, trafficking into Singapore happens from other Asian countries typically. The numbers are not huge, but it's there. So in 2009, we joined the Stop Sex Trafficking campaign to put an end to trafficking of children and young people, together with Body Shop and ECPAT and local NGOs TWC2 and Home. The global campaign wrapped up in 2012, but I'm happy to tell you that Singapore launched its first ever national action plan against trafficking in 2012, before the campaign wrapped up. Our other migration campaign, called Day Off, we've been trying since 2008 to encourage employers to give the domestic worker a day off voluntarily. So after a couple of years, starting this year and phased in over 2 years, domestic workers are getting a day off on paper. But our campaign continues to get the employers to actually give the day off instead of paying their domestic worker or maid off with a small sum of money. Something else we're quite proud of in Singapore is Project Inspire. We're trying to reach the young to make the world a better place for women and girls. There's a cooperation between MasterCard and UN Women Singapore. So we're asking 18 to 25-year-old, and that includes you, 18 to 25-year-olds, to submit your life-changing idea as a 5-minute video to benefit the lives of women and girls in Asia, Middle East, and Africa. And the winning team stands to win $25,000 to implement the idea. So we have our 2011 winner, Happy Noy from the Philippines, is busy helping 1,600 nanais or owners of small neighborhood sari-sari store expand their businesses. And our 2011 winner, the Women's Personal Private Marketplace, is just setting up in Rajasthan to help women educate and sell sanitary products through a mobile phone app. So in the 2 years Project Inspire has been running this far, we've gotten 800 pitch proposals from 57 different countries, and it just keeps on growing. So please prepare your proposal. Submission deadline is end of June this year. So the UN Women and the UN Women Network all over the world is doing their part. And there is a lot that you can do too. All of you have your own personal sphere of influence, and make sure that be mindful how you think of women, act to women at home, at work, in the public, and whatever messages you spread over social media or in person, make sure that they speak positively of women. Of course, we'd love for you to donate money to civil society, join us as a volunteer, but really wherever you are, there is a lot you can do. Join a socially responsible corporation, or make your corporation socially responsible. Join politics at any level. But more than anything else, from wherever you stand, whatever area you are in, just do your best and be mindful of what you do. So I want to end my presentation here today by playing the One Woman song, which UN Women released, an international Women's Day this year as a worldwide collaboration. Thank you very much.